It is my pleasure to be talking with one of the greats in rock and roll, George Thorogood, going to be making his return. Looks like March 28th is the date right now for his big performance, Brown County Music Center there in beautiful Nashville, Indiana. George Thorogood, an early happy Thanksgiving to you.
How do turkeys eat their food?
How do turkeys eat their food?
They gobble it.
Kind of walked into that one, didn't I?
You sure did.
How are you, man?
I'm sneaking by, trying to.
Still rocking and rolling?
No, I was trying to stay out of the joint, stay out of the hospital. Like everybody else, it's hard work.
Absolutely. Well, the thing that I love is that you're not slowing down and you're not, I don't want to hear any of this crap about a retirement tour or anything. We hear that from too many artists, but the fact that you popped up on our radar with the concert announcement that you're coming back to Indiana, tell you what, a whole lot of our listeners of our radio station, including yours truly, really excited. I'll always enjoy seeing you.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
A pleasure to come to Indiana, home of Donnie Baseball Mattingly. Isn't that true?
Let's talk actually about and you and I talked briefly before we started the interview, is that, and I know you get asked this from time to time, but the classic hit "Bad to the Bone."
Okay.
That's one that for fans of not only the song, but certainly from the movie Christine, in which Stephen King's great book, you hear that guitar riff, you hear your vocals come in. They couldn't have picked a better song for that movie. And I think and I played it for my son who's 9.5 years old. He fell in love with it immediately. And he tries to imitate the and I told him, I said, that's George's signature, the way he sings the song. And he asked me, he says, Daddy, why does he do that? And George, in all the years I've enjoyed that classic hit, I thought, I got to ask him, how did you come up with it? When did that come to you? And you said, okay, this is how.
All right. Fair question. Fair enough. Excuse me. That was on purpose. I heard the Who singing "My Generation," and according to Roger Daltrey, they heard a song "Stuttering Blues" by John Lee Hooker.
Okay.
And they adopted it, however we want to say it, "My Generation." 10 years later, a song came out called "Baby, You Ain't Never Seen Nothing Yet." Remember that song?
Absolutely.
So 10 years after, I said, every 10 years, everything's up for grabs.
It's free game.
You generally get a new audience every 10 years, sure, especially in the world of rock. At least it used to be that way, Greg, because people would grow up and grow out of it. Rock and rock was for teenagers or people in their early 20s, not so much anymore. But we did that on purpose because we heard that and said, maybe there's one more song we can squeeze out of that gimmick, And besides, it's the letter B, it's right. Awful hard to write a song, and if you're saying with the letter E, with B or D, you know what I'm saying? Right. It just seemed to work. That's all.
It most definitely did, and I think with that song, because I've tried to. Since my son brought that up, I thought, what if that wasn't in there? What if the stuttering B wasn't in there? It wouldn't have the badass effect that it does now, because as soon as I hear you, and I played it for him earlier, and you can just, the song, it takes on its own life with that stutter.
Well, that's good. It's got to take on life for something, and
it gives it more edge.
If that's part, listen, man, when we were putting together our recording career, for whatever lack of other words, we put a song together. So much has been done before that by the geniuses of Chuck Berry and McCartney and Lennon and people like that. I said, man, you got to have something more than just one or two things. And when you put a song together, you got to have some stuff in there. You know what I mean? All McCartney has to do is stand on a stage and go, "Yesterday," boom. You know what I'm saying? I am not blessed with that kind of genius. See, so we put the whole kitchen sink into that tune.
Let's talk three artists that, as a young George Thorogood, three artists that stood out to you that you said, "Damn, that's I want to be that one day. I want to be behind the mic." in that spotlight? Who comes to mind for you?
Well, the big three in my generation, when I was in school and all that, were the biggest three of all time. The biggest three were the Beatles, Dylan, and the Rolling Stones.
Right.
They were the biggest, and they still are.
Oh,
You
hell
know, every kid dreams of that and saying, "Oh my God, man, John Lennon is so cool, man. Look at those lips on Jagger, and Dylan writes great stuff." But they're the three of the most uniquest acts in the world. So when as time went on, I said, well, let's get a little bit more realistic here about. Then I saw a band in the early part of '68, and the band was Steppenwolf. And I heard them, and I went to see them play live, and I said, that's it.
Wow.
Bam. That's it. That was like hard rock at its best. It was kind of the birth of hard rock, if you know what I'm saying, as opposed to just rock. That year was the year Jumpin' Jack Flash came out. And that song changed from rock and roll to rock.
Right.
You got it? So when I saw Steppenwolf, I said, yeah. I kept that to myself for a long, long time. And then as time went on, I said, okay, Born to Be Wild, Bad to the Bone. Why not?
Absolutely.
That was, I remember it was before Born to Be Wild was in the movie Easy Rider. So they were still somewhat of an underground act, okay, which a lot of them were. But that was, and plus you could feel the blues roots there. You could feel that underneath it. And it was a hard, different sound. So I won't say, that was my favorite band, but that was kind of a focus for me. And I kind of got out of that when we put the three-piece together. It was more like Hound Dog Taylor, or it was more like, like a Savoy Brown or Canned Heat. But as time evolved, Greg, I said, this is crazy, George. All that you've been through, you're coming back full cycle to the band that you fingered way back in '68. Steppenwolf, they were like on a good level, they were the ultimate biker band. Okay.
Right.
I said, okay, if they can be the ultimate biker band, we can be the ultimate bar band. How's that?
Let me ask you and give some advice. Give me really from the heart, if you would, because you hear about these the American Idols and all of these reality shows today, and there are artists that want to follow in your footsteps. They want to see George Thorogood and hear your music and say, he's the guy, like Steppenwolf did it for you, that they hear George Thorogood and say, damn, I want that. What would you tell them? Because they get all kinds of advice and people whispering their ears. George, what would you say to somebody that wants to be the next big star?
You mean wants to be the next big star, or wants to be something like me? Be more specific.
That wants to have a hell of a kick-ass rock and roll successful career like George Thorogood.
I'd say see a psychiatrist. Why in the world would anybody want to follow in what I'm doing? It's very flattering, for someone to say that. I would say you always have to have this, and Miles Davis said this, rest in peace. He said what you do when you start with something, especially music, have someone you focus at. Someone that's like a big hero, like John Hammond was for me, or the band was Jay Giles, or the band was Steppenwolf. Look at that and then keep doing that, not copying them, but that, and eventually your thing will come out of it. Look at the Beatles. They wanted to be Elvis Presley. Like the Stones wanted to be Chuck Berry, And so when you have that focus first, Miles Davis said, find something like that first and then move on from that. And eventually you will evolve from that. That's pretty good advice.
I think that's really good advice, because you would have to admit probably an awful lot of young people, they're told, look, you're wasting your time. Stick with the factory job, stick with something high tech, stick with something else. You're not going to be a star. You're not there. Your odds are against you. And to be beaten down like that, I always think that sucks, because why not allow them to at least try and chase that dream? Why not, allow them to see if it's there?
Well, how many people do you know actually, Greg, in their lifetime actually gets paid to do what they love doing more than anything in the world? About 2%.
That's probably accurate.
So if you get paid doing something, regardless of what you're getting, how much you're getting paid, to do that, I hate to go back to this, but when he was about 39 or 40, Pete Rose was in spring training. And he had already won an MVP, a couple of world championships, some batting titles, blah, blah, blah. And he was really hustling, working hard in spring training. He said, Pete, you've done everything in baseball a person could possibly do. What drives you? And he said, all I wanted when I was a youngster was to be a Major League Baseball player. That's all I want now. So for me, I'm saying all I want is a gig. That's, that was when I picked up the guitar. I said, if we can make a living doing this, we got it.
And you've had a pretty damn good ride. You got to look back, right? Wouldn't you say that? I mean, being all BS aside, you've had a hell of a ride.
Johnny Winter once said something, and I don't want to name drop, but I listen to what people say. You might not think that. And he said, always play for fun, and then the rewards will come to you eventually. And the more you have fun, the more you want to do it. And the more you do it, the better you get at it.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So Johnny had a point there. You always play for fun.
And you have done that so well. I cannot wait. Looking forward to it. Come March, George Thorogood, we're going to see you down in beautiful Nashville, Indiana, again at Brown County Music Center. George, again, my pleasure. It's been a lot of fun. I hope you have a great holiday.
Always a pleasure, man. And see you in the wild card.
We'll do it. That's perfect. George, thank you so much.
All right, Greg.